welcome to Homes with Kim. I'm Kim Opalinsky, a real estate associate with RE/MAX Real Estate, and this is Stephen from YegTube TV.
Hi everybody, we are live tonight on Facebook and YouTube. If you're watching us on Facebook, go ahead and leave your comments and questions there. Kim is watching the Facebook feed and she will get your questions answered.
I would like to welcome Peter Mason from Peter Mason Real Estate Law. Peter is dedicated and trusted. Peter concentrates his real estate practice on real estate, and real estate. Peter has a strong dedication to service for his clients while at the same time delivering practical advice. Residential real estate, advising clients in all areas of real estate law, commercial real estate, and notary public. When representing a buyer, your lawyer may obtain and review parcel info, receive and respond to requisitions, acquire funds from buyers for encumbrances or mortgage, conduct business with buyer lawyer, counsel and defer to you, the client. When representing a seller, Peter may obtain and review parcel information, receive and respond to requisitions, acquire funds for buyers for encumbrances and or mortgage, and conduct business with buyer's lawyer. Peter, could you please explain some of the terms and definitions that people will hear when dealing with a lawyer, such as mortgage insurance?
Certainly. First of all, Kim, thank you very much. And you're much too kind. So mortgage insurance, it could relate to one of two things. We talk about default insurance, or commonly known as CMHC. So when somebody purchases a property with less than 20% down, they're required by law to get default insurance.
Okay.
In the event that they default on the payment, the bank can then look to the Government of Canada in the event of a loss. But of course, the other kind of mortgage insurance that other people may be aware of is in the event of somebody's death, right? And then the mortgage is paid off.
Yep.
Okay, so important to keep those two sort of separate.
Okay. What about zoning issues?
Zoning issues are fairly rare, but do come into play if you are purchasing a property with an intended use.
Such as using it as a rental property, stuff like that.
Rental property with a full suite in the basement. Maybe you want to operate a home-based business. You want to make sure that the zoning in that area allows your intended use.
Okay. What about a work order searches?
Work order searches, often important to make sure there's no outstanding orders from the city, the fire department, those kinds of bodies.
Okay. What about title insurance?
Title insurance, best to understand title insurance and compare it to something all people know about, which is ordinary house insurance. Ordinary house insurance covers you for things like fire, flood, slip and fall. You pay every month for as long as you own the property. Title insurance, a little bit different. It protects your legal title, no monthly payments, very cheap.
Okay. What about registration fees?
So in Alberta, when we purchase a property, typically there's a mortgage involved. We send the transfer documents along with the mortgage documents down to land titles.
Okay.
Land titles will then charge us to register those documents. So the courier costs, right, along with the actual land title registration fee, right, is part of what we call disbursements.
Okay. What about property tax certificate? What is that?
Property taxes certificate, we actually order a tax search.
Okay.
To ascertain if, in fact, the property taxes have been paid up to date prior to the closing date. So then we can properly adjust on the statement of adjustments.
Okay. What about any liens? What do they mean by liens?
So typically with liens, we'll see this in relation to a new construction. We talk about builder's liens. So these are potential areas in the event a contractor has not been paid. With construction, they typically have 45 days to file a lien on the property. Shows up on the actual title document.
Okay. Okay, and legal fees.
Legal fees, all our legal fees are posted right on our website. So they're transparent, easy to understand. As I like to tell all my clients, we like to charge as much as we can.
Okay.
They love it.
Okay, sounds good. Okay, here are some questions that came in this week. Should you consult a lawyer before signing a real estate contract?
Okay, so considering that this would, in all likelihood, be the largest investment most people make in their life, it stands to reason you should at least run the contract by a lawyer, preferably me, before you purchase. We don't charge to do a review of the contract. Some of the sort of precautions you would want to take is make sure that your contract is conditional on financing.
Yep.
Conditional on home inspection. You could even make it conditional on lawyer approval.
Okay.
The important thing is to protect yourself. Nobody wants to buy a house, end up with something, somebody else's major problems.
Okay, so Peter, I know as a real estate agent that sometimes we're in negotiations like at midnight. Are you available then to review a contract?
Kim, anybody can call my cell phone 24/7. It's posted right on the screen there, 908-6721. If there's an issue of concern, call me anytime.
Okay, sounds good. Stephen, do you have a question?
Yeah, we got a couple questions that were emailed in ahead of time. What is the role of the lawyer once the conditions are removed?
So once the conditions are removed, the contract is now firm, which basically means both parties must now complete. So our job is to carry out the contract according to the terms of the contract. In other words, make sure the buyer gets what they bargained for. Okay? So in the case of a purchaser, we collect money from the purchaser, the shortfall funds. We request funds from the bank. Once all the funds are in our trust account, on closing day, we send it over to the seller. If the seller is satisfied, the seller's lawyer will authorize a key release.
Okay. How can I protect my investment?
Again, so being one of the largest purchases in most people's life, protecting this investment is critical. Okay, so of course, have a lawyer review the contract before you sign on the dotted line. Make sure you've got conditions in there so you can back out if you have to. Double check, make sure all the parties are correct, the property is correct, and the price is correct. Okay, and I encourage all our clients to get something called title insurance. And very briefly, if we think of title insurance in relation to a typical house purchase, there is the lot, there is the house, right? So if we think about ordinary insurance, so typically on a house, people get insurance, which typically covers for fire, flood, slip, and fall. This kind of insurance you pay monthly for as long as you own the property.
Yep.
Title insurance, a little bit different. It protects your legal title, no monthly payments, and it covers about 50 insurable risks. Okay, so just as a couple of examples, if, for instance, somebody puts a fraudulent mortgage on your property, covered. Somebody puts a fraudulent builder's lien on your property, covered. If somebody comes along and tells you something on your property is built illegally or incorrectly, and you're required to make that good, repair it, whatever, you're totally covered.
Okay.
Or if you find something toxic on your property that renders your whole investment worthless, you're totally covered. So for roughly $179 for the life of your property, it's what we in the legal field call a no-brainer.
Okay.
I got another question here that was emailed in. What exactly is a real property report, and why should the buyer demand one?
So in Alberta, yes, the standard real estate contract requires the vendor or the seller to provide a real property report with full compliance to the purchaser. So a real property report simply is a map, an aerial view, showing the location of the house, the garage, and any other improvements to the land, such as fences, decks, gazebos, things of that nature. That real property report or map is then sent to the city for compliance. The city will examine it and issue hopefully a compliance letter outlining that everything that you are thinking about buying is compliant with the city's laws.
So compliant, if the person's built something that they shouldn't have, it will come up on the real property report.
So oftentimes, a real property report will go to the city, and the city says, oh, I see there's a deck on the real property report. We have no record of a permit. Well, then you know that the seller then will have to get a permit and then redo the real property report, like order a new one or an updated real property report.
Okay. What exactly happens on closing day?
Closing day, so very simply, if I'm representing a purchaser, our job is to make sure the money comes in to our trust account from the bank or the mortgage company.
Okay.
And then we send all the money over to the vendor to pay for the property. Once that happens, then the vendor's lawyer on the opposite side is satisfied, then he or she will authorize a key release.
Okay. Now I know key release typically is somewhere between noon and 1 o'clock, but there are times where it's been delayed.
There's never any delays in our office.
Okay, great. Great
So
to know.
you're right. Typically, the handover is around noon for the most part. Occasionally, it runs into 1 or 2 o'clock, but no major delays. If there are any major delays, we can actually initiate something called tenancy at will, just in case, and get the purchasers in on a short-term basis.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, sounds good.
I've got another question here.
Okay, awesome.
The $1 million question: what are the legal fee costs?
Legal fees get posted on our website, but typically purchase $695 plus disbursements, sale $695 plus disbursements. Disbursements are whatever it costs us to finish the deal. So in a purchase, we're talking about the title or the transfer documents, and the mortgage documents is being sent down to land titles. Land titles will charge us to register those documents. Those are typically disbursements, and for a purchase, usually under $500. On a typical sale, no more than a couple $100. We pay off a mortgage.
Okay, sounds good. Can you explain to us what the Dower Act is?
So the dower was initiated by the province of Alberta over 100 years ago.
Wow.
So it's a very old law, but it was brought in for very noble reasons. So very briefly, back in the day, there was, typically guys would go out, say on a Friday night, play some cards, maybe have a beer or two, and bet the family farm and lose it. So consequently, the next morning, the winner would show up at the farm and kick the women and the children out. So as a result, you've got all these women and children walking aimlessly through small town Alberta, all over the province. So the government stepped in and said, basically from now on, non-titled spouses have an interest in a property. It's called a dower interest. So the titled spouse, that's the spouse that actually is on the title, would be unable to sell or dispose of it, like lose it in a poker game, without the non-titled spouse's consent.
Okay. Now, when you're saying spouse, that you have to be married?
Exactly.
Okay, so
it
it's
does not apply to
common law.
That's
okay.
right, yeah.
Good to know.
Yeah.
Okay. So, real estate documents are confusing. We can all admit that. Don't handle one of the biggest purchases of your life alone. Peter Mason and his team is ready to help make sure you don't lose any sleep over your next home purchase. You can contact Peter at the following information. Okay, I would like to thank Peter for coming and being our guest today. And remember, Peter will be back here on May 3rd when we have our panel of guests from the previous weeks for everybody to ask questions that you may have thought of after the fact. And also next Wednesday, April 26th, we will be having Carol Melko here from Condo First Review. And she will be here to let us know exactly what they look for when they're reviewing the condo docs. So if you have any questions for Carol, please email them in to me. Stephen, can you remind everybody how to get in touch with me?
Yeah, I sure can. If you'd like to contact Kim Opalinsky, you can always call her, send her a text message, an email, or you can follow her on Facebook.
So, thank you again, Peter, for coming.
Thank you, Kim.
It's been an honor having you
Thank
here
you.
as my guest.
Thank you.
And even though we had some technical difficulties in the beginning. So, that's all for this week. I bid you adieu. Until next week. Bye.
Thanks for watching, and if you haven't already done so, don't forget to like us on Facebook and to subscribe to us on YouTube.